The first-generation fairy girl abandoned her husband and children. How miserable is her fate now? Because she despised her husband for being poor and incompetent, she abandoned her 3 children and eloped with her lover for 30 years. Now, she has cervical cancer and has been abandoned by her new lover. The cancer has already spread throughout her body. She has lost dozens of kilograms and is nearly paralyzed. At this point, she shamelessly asks her ex-husband and 3 children to take care of her. After being rejected, she contacted a mediator.
我打电话给我孩子，我说要让人照顾我一下，孩子打电话来骂我，你现在想我们来照顾你啊，想我们来买你啊，你想错了。
The elderly fairy girl in front of us is named Huang Min. Now, her words are filled with regret. Her younger sister also complained to the mediator, accusing her sister's ex-husband's entire family of being heartless and ruthless. Over this period, she had been the only one taking care of her sister. Now that her sister was terminally ill, none of her 3 children were willing to visit her, making them ungrateful and cruel beyond belief. After hearing the younger sister's description, the mediator was also furious. How could such cold-hearted people exist in this world? Then, the mediator followed the younger sister to visit the ex-husband's family. When the ex-husband saw the mediator, he was confused. After hearing why the mediator had come, he became even more bewildered. This woman hasn't been my wife for 30 years. What kind of twisted logic do you have to think I should be responsible for her?
82年结婚，他是92年是走了。
It turned out that many years ago, through a friend's introduction, the ex-husband and the fairy girl got together. After marriage, they had 3 children, and although life was simple, it was happy. The ex-husband was a carpenter. His income wasn't high, but it was enough to provide for the family, ensuring the children could grow up healthy. However, 10 years after their marriage, the fairy girl suddenly abandoned their 3 children and ran away from home, taking a large sum of money with her. At that time, their youngest child was only 2.5 years old, and the eldest was just 8. The heavy burden of raising 3 children fell entirely on the ex-husband. Their once happy family was shattered. Over the past 30 years, the fairy girl had never once come back to see her children. And now, where does she find the face to demand her children take care of her in her old age?
就我一个人欠了3万多，92年的钱，92年到现在的钱，你说代表来多少钱？
是的，是的，是的。
是我的孩子要读书啊，要吃饭啊。30年的过程中，没有给孩子寄过钱，没有寄过衣服，没有问过。
Whenever he talked about the hardships of the past 30 years, the ex-husband's eyes would still glisten with tears. With 3 children needing education and elderly parents who were bedridden, his life was incredibly difficult. The ex-husband had to work desperately to make ends meet. Every time he was on the verge of breaking down, he fantasized that the fairy girl would come back to help him. But that was just a dream. Once he woke up, he still had to keep working hard for the sake of his children. Later, as his 3 children gradually grew up and took over his burden, life became a little better. At that time, the ex-husband thought of the fairy girl again, but she still didn't return. Her family was well aware that she had eloped with someone else for over 30 years, but they never gave any explanation for it. Later, when his sons got married, the ex-husband went to invite her family, but not a single person showed up.
我老婆早就10年前，我去过我岳母家。这个去的不多。后来我儿子结婚，带了我儿子就请了他们娘家，没有一个人来，一个都没有来。是我同他娘家没有关系了。
Last year, the fairy girl returned to her parents' home once, but she still did not visit her children. And now that cancer has spread throughout her body, she suddenly wants to see her children, and even shamelessly asks her younger sister to bring a reporter to question her ex-husband.
去年回来的时候，他也没有到我家来。你到外面30多年，自由开心，那我一个人养大孩子，我欠了债。
The younger sister of the fairy girl admitted that her sister was indeed somewhat wrong to leave the family back then. But in the end, These 3 children are still her biological children. Now that her sister is critically ill, is it wrong for her to want to see her biological children one last time? The ex-husband didn't want to continue the conversation. He bluntly told her to go find the man she eloped with and let him take care of her. Don't come looking for my poor children.
我不同意，那汉下有什么意思啊？那汉就是要找我孩子啊，给他治病啊，要我孩子，我们排那个百年最后的事啊，那我知道啊，你找我啊，找我孩子啊，死了以后要我孩子那个披麻戴孝啊，
你不愿意？
那我当然不愿意，你没有用了，你不管了几十年。
After failing to achieve their goal, the group returned to the hospital. When the mediator asked her why she had abandoned her 3 children, the fairy girl claimed that she had her reasons for leaving the family.
那你们之前为什么会走呢？家里面有3个孩子。
那时家里一无所有，我想说自一点钱的贴补家养给小孩子读书。
The fairy girl claimed that her family was poor at the time, so she wanted to leave home to work and earn money for her children's education. Then she secretly went to Guangzhou to work. But life there made it impossible for her to return home, which is why she didn't come back for over 30 years. Upon hearing this, the fairy girl's younger sister became furious. As a mother herself, she couldn't understand why her sister would abandon her children.
我只能说是自作自受。
你总是埋怨我没的。
我不埋怨你怎么说？你说你在外面赚不到钱，你赚不到钱，你为什么回来照顾小孩子呢？
我那时候你不是说要离家出走，不要孩子？我就是没有找到钱，我就做。
Hearing this, her younger sister became even angrier.
你错在哪里？你还不知道？你到现在你还不知道啊？你还不知道你错在哪里？换着我现在是我是一个男人的话，我也不要你了。你自己错了，你会承认一点，是我错了，多年是吧？是我自己幻想那个错。对，他好的不到，他现在还好不到是他的错，他现在就把那个错降到别人身上，好像是人家的错，不是他的错。
Despite her anger, she was still her sister. The younger sister couldn't bear it and wanted her 3 children to see her one last time. So, she called in the mediator for advice. In the end, they decided to film a pitiful apology video. After all, people have feelings. They couldn't believe the children would remain indifferent after watching it. After a difficult search, they finally found the eldest son. But to everyone's surprise, his reaction was very strange. He didn't say a word, his face showed no emotion, and in the middle of the conversation, he simply rode away on his bike. Later, from the ex-husband, they learned that the eldest son wasn't always like this. Before the age of 8, he was cheerful, always smiling, and consistently ranked first in his class. He was also very polite. But when he was 8, he lost his mother's love. The emotional trauma was too great, and he gradually became withdrawn. He often locked himself in small spaces and refused to communicate with anyone. Now, at 39 years old, he still hasn't recovered from the psychological impact. His father is deeply worried about his future. At this moment, the mediator brought up the request again, pleading with him to allow the 3 children to take care of the fairy girl in her final days. The mediator's emotional intelligence was remarkable, bringing this up just as the ex-husband was grieving for his son. The ex-husband immediately responded that if he had to see his ex-wife, he would rather die. The mediator wasn't willing to give up so easily. After interviewing the villagers, they managed to bypass the ex-husband and went directly to the youngest son. They thought that since he was the youngest at the time, his wounds would be the smallest, so he might be more willing to see her. But the youngest son's answer was the same as his father's.
那个时候生活应该很苦吧？
仇恨，那是在所难免的。
那肯定的了。
他一个人把我们3个人养大，又要赚钱，又要照顾我们3个。我爸以前也是欠了一身账啊，欠了很多账，外面就是为了帮我们拉扯大。现在好不容易拉扯大了嘛，我们成家了，又突然跑回来要找我们，怎么说呢？说实话，我心里过这一关我过不去，毕竟现在我都33岁了。
是的了。
他长什么样我也不知道，是个什么样的人我也不知道。
The youngest son told the mediator, "If you haven't suffered the pain of others, don't advise them to be kind." Please tell her to stay away from us from now on. We don't want to see her. The memories of his father suffering to raise the 3 brothers were still fresh in his mind. When he was young, every time he saw his father crying in a corner, where was that woman? And now, who is responsible for the state of his eldest brother? Later, under the relentless persuasion of the reporters, the youngest son agreed that he might stop by to take a look during the new year. But nothing more. After hearing his son's response, the ex-husband, not wanting to make things difficult for him, decided to go to the hospital himself.
你还知道他是谁吗？他是谁？是老公啊。对不起我。对不起啊。세상에 그래 알겠어. 어느 이분의 생일이 오면 또 보게. 주연씨가 성민이 연씨가 할게 갖고
The mediator's plan was finally working. After all, people have feelings. Seeing his ex-wife lying in bed, barely clinging to life, the ex-husband was moved. He finally agreed to persuade his children to send this woman off on her final journey. 30 years of resentment turned into one simple sentence. Let the past be the past.
This story evokes a mix of emotions and prompts us to reflect on a fundamental question. Is family love truly unconditional, or does it require effort and commitment to maintain? She pursued so-called freedom in her youth, abandoning her husband and children, cutting off all contact for over 30 years. Now, as fate comes full circle, she is terminally ill and has been abandoned by her new lover, yet she naively expects her ex-husband and children to take her back, care for her, and see her through her final days. But did she ever consider how the family she abandoned had to struggle through their suffering? Her younger sister has stepped forward to accuse the children of being heartless and unfilial, even bringing in mediators and the media to pressure them. But has anyone thought about what these children went through over the past 30 years? How are they supposed to overcome the trauma inflicted by their mother? The eldest son, having lost maternal love at a young age, gradually became withdrawn and silent, possibly even developing psychological issues. Such wounds cannot simply be erased with the phrase, "Blood is thicker than water." Some say that since blood ties cannot be severed, the children should at least see their mother one last time and send her off. But others argue that motherly love is not innate. After 30 years of abandonment, all that remains is an irreversible consequence. This is not the children being unfeeling. It is the mother who severed the bond herself. What do you think? If you were one of these 3 children, would you choose to forgive her? Or would you, like them, firmly refuse? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us, and we will continue to bring you better content. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.